Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 11th of February, 2025. Thank you so much for joining me. Beautiful day outside. I think it was 46 degrees. It's 48 degrees according to my watch outside. Just a beautiful morning, not too windy, just very, very enjoyable. There's a full moon out. The full moon happens tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So tonight will be a full moon. And Wednesday night should be a full moon also. And if you're out when there's a full moon, it's almost like it's daylight. It's just really, really stunning. So I hope you get a chance to see the full moon. I typically like to sit outside and watch the moon rise. And so that may happen tonight. I don't think it'll happen tomorrow night. And what else? I was just reading a letter. My friendly HOA sent me a letter. And it says, "Dear homeowners, this letter is being sent to you as a courtesy and a notice and a request for further information. It has come to the attention of the Executive Board of Directors that certain conditions exist on your property that violate the governing documents of the association. Specifically, the board has been informed that." So what have I violated? "This condition is not in compliance with RDL CCNR section Article 4, Section 2J, trash containers. In no event shall such containers be maintained so as to be visible from the neighboring property except to make the same available for collection, and then only for the shortest time reasonable." So I was looking at the inspection date. It was on the 4th, and it is true that on the 4th I took my trash out early because they come early on Wednesday. And so I think I took him out at like 3 o'clock because I was doing something in the garage and I saw him sitting there and I said, I should take out the trash early because I don't want to do it later on when it's dark. So apparently taking out your trash Tuesday violates your HOA bylaws. So I guess because I am not... let's see, maintain visible for the shortest time reasonably necessary to effect such collection. The shortest time reasonably necessary. So I guess, that's just, that's up for debate, isn't it? "All rubbish, trash, and garbage shall be removed from the lots and parcels and shall not be allowed to accumulate thereon." Well, I don't have any trash on the parcel. "This is a reminder, so please be sure all trash containers are out of view except on the day of trash pickup." Oh. So I can only have the trash cans out on the day, which means I've got to open the garage door at 4 a.m. and do it when it's freezing cold outside. Interesting. "The board hereby respectfully requests that you immediately correct the condition." Well, the condition's corrected. I can tell you that right now. "And notified the board in writing of the correction or provide the board with information in writing within 21 days regarding your plans to correct the conditions. If you do not feel that you are in violation of the above cited provisions and this letter has been sent in error, please provide a written explanation on the attached response form. Please note owners are responsible for their tenants." So I have 21 days to respond. I get these letters. I know that this is a necessary evil. When we were looking for a house here in Vail, I tried everything to get a house that wasn't part of an HOA because it seems so childish to me. I'm sorry. But I feel like I've been called to the principal's office and it's just so, in the past, it was the weeds, okay? And I would send these long flowing explanations about each weed and why it was growing. Oh my goodness. Now it's the trash can. Anyway, so it's just so ridiculous. I understand. I don't have a car sitting in the front on blocks, replacing the engine or anything like that. It seems like there's other things that the compliance manager could be looking at, but I suppose if you're looking at 3,000 homes, which is Del Lago has 3,000 homes, right? So you've got 2 days basically, or a day. I mean, can you even look at 3,000 homes in a day? It might take a week to look at 3,000 homes. I have no idea. Anyway, so somebody had to drive, somebody had to mark down, somebody had to send a letter, 69 cents a letter, and then mark it down as far as whether or not they receive a response. And if they don't receive a response, I suppose that they come out and look again. And if you still have trash, if they look on a Tuesday and have taken out the trash early, maybe I should dispute it and say, I don't believe I was in error. I believe there should be more grace when my trash comes at 6:30 a.m. that I don't have to do it at 4 a.m. Oh my goodness. All right. So those are what we call, third world problem, or it's basically I should be grateful that I have a house to live in, that I have food, all the things. If any of you know a house for sale that doesn't have an HOA in the Vale area, let me know, because I would be willing to move. I know it sounds crazy. All right, let's see what else. We have a birthday today. Where are we? Tam Newell has a birthday today. John Cochran has a birthday. That's my neighbor, at least for now, until I move. Wow, what a picky HOA. Yikes. Ours is picked up on Thursday morning, and I take it out Wednesday evening. Polly, you shouldn't do that. You're violating your HOA. It can only go on the day. You put out your Monday night for Tuesday pickup. See, you're in error. And no wind chimes in the HOA. Really? I've got wind chimes. We have wind chimes. I haven't been dinged for wind chimes. I have a barking dog next door that barks all day yesterday. I was trimming I have a citrus tree that's got some suckers on it, and it happens to be right next door to where the dogs are. And the whole time I was trimming it, they barked at me nonstop. It was so frustrating. Will they get an HOA notice? Probably not. But by goodness, if they take out dog poop in a trash can early, they're going to get it. Oh my goodness. It's just a necessary evil of living in a world with other people. This is why guys want to become hermits, because then they don't have to be bothered by HOAs. Every guy's dream is to live out on 40 acres somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and every woman's nightmare is to live out on 40 acres in the middle of nowhere. So the things we do for love. All right, so what else can I say? That's the birthdays. Thank you all for joining me and for commiserating with me. I appreciate it very much. At least none of you said, suck it up, Buttercup. It's your own fault for moving into an HOA. Which is, I think 17 years in this house. So anyway, all right. What else can I say? That is about it. Let's get into our study. We are in Mark chapter 1, verse 16, and we kind of skipped this a little bit. I think I've already done this last week, but I will just read it real quick and reflect upon it. As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. And when he had gone a little further, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John in a boat preparing their nets, and without delay he called them. And they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. So they are in the Sea of Galilee. And just so you know, Sea of Galilee, I think I brought this up, but the Sea of Galilee is at the north end of the Jordan River. The south end of the Jordan River is the Dead Sea. And the area of Samaria is directly west of the Jordan River. And then Jesus had gone down. He's eventually going to end up in Jerusalem. He was born in Bethlehem because he was there for the census. He dies in Jerusalem. But He spends most of his ministry up here near the Sea of Galilee, which is right now called Lake Tiberias. And it's called Lake Tiberias because the town of Tiberias, which was built in honor of the emperor Tiberius, Caesar. But Jesus grew up in Nazareth. So after he was born in Bethlehem, he goes down to Egypt for a while, and then he comes back up north through Samaria, and he ends up in Nazareth, where he grows up. And Galilee is apparently a very, very small town. I've always called it a hick town, which means, a lot of people who are poor. They're definitely not in one of the major centers of commerce. That's probably the best way to say. Jerusalem is a center of commerce. Tiberias is a center of commerce. Samaria is a center of commerce. Jericho is a center of commerce. It's got some history to it. Jericho is famous for the Israelites conquered Jericho by walking around the city. What makes a town famous are the stories that are told of the town. So, for example, you have Tombstone, Arizona, which is famous because of the stories of Wyatt Earp that that existed in Tombstone. Well, we have stories here in Vail also. And the Vail community is, or at least the Vail Preservation Society, is finding out those stories and preserving those stories. And I think they're more exciting than the ones in Tombstone. But you need to have a town for those stories to take root, because otherwise they're just stories, really, basically. I mean, you need to have something that those stories are wrapped around, I guess you could say. Anyway, so Jesus ends up in Nazareth. He's living in Nazareth, which is about 18 miles west of the Sea of Galilee. And he goes down to the Jordan River, which is south, to the north end of the Dead Sea. He's baptized by John. He comes back up, and he goes to the Sea of Galilee, and there he finds some fishermen. And who he finds is Peter and Andrew. I'm sorry, Andrew and Simon. Peter is also known as Simon in the Gospels, and then James and John. And James and John are called the sons of thunder. So you got to wonder if it's Zebedee that's the thunder, or if it's James and John are so much of a handful that they're called thunder. They're sons of thunder, or sons of thunder, who is Zebedee. I don't know. The Bible doesn't really say, but in other places in Scripture, they're known as sons of thunder. And I have to believe that as fishermen on the same sea, the Sea of Galilee, that Simon and his brother Andrew and James and John all know each other, and or at least all familiar. They probably know each other, because you come in with your fish. Sometimes you need help because the fish is well. We know that when Jesus tells Peter to put the net out, and he catches so much fish, he calls out to James and John. This is I think this is in Matthew, where they go out to and James and John come in, and they help him bring in the fish. And so they would have known each other. These are four guys that know each other really, really well. And James and John's father, Zebedee, they probably know him also. It's a very, very small fishing community. They all know each other. And Jesus calls all four of them. And poor Zebedee is left with his hired help. And I'm glad it says in the gospel that he has hired help, because if the two boys leave and he doesn't have hired help, then you've got problems. How's he going to? I mean, you can't leave your father and go follow a rabbi. But they're willing to do that. Now just stop and think about that for a moment. They're willing to give up their livelihood to go follow Jesus. And you think, well, they could always go back to fishing. Well, it's not that simple. Yes, they could fish, but being a fisherman is more than just fishing. it's also having the connections and the relationships to sell your fish. It's knowing, you know, if you leave your fisherman's job, somebody else is going to come and take its place and do some fishing. Although I suppose if you go down to Puerto Penasco, you'll see all the shrimp boats because the shrimp boats go out early in the day and they fish for shrimp all day and they come back in. And I suppose it doesn't matter if there's 10 shrimp boats or 20 shrimp boats, they're all going to be able to come to the market and sell their shrimp. So maybe they're willing to take this because there is a community there, right? That knows how to deal with the shrimp. So maybe that's not as big of a deal as I think it is. But they're also businessmen because they know how much fish they can catch in a day. They know where to go to sell the fish. They know what price to sell the fish. At some level, they're not just fishermen, but they're also businessmen. At least Zebedee is. And James and John maybe are just fishermen. Who knows? And I don't know. I think when they go out in the shrimp boats in Puerto Penasco, they troll. And, they drive out there, they find a place, they set out the nets, they troll for a while, they look in the nets to see if there's shrimp, and then they come back in. And I think it's a hard thing to do. And I think the same is true fishing with a net in the Sea of Galilee. You've got to row your boat. Remember, there's no motors back then. You got to row your boat, throw out the net, catch the fish. Anyway, I like these 4 disciples. Peter's my favorite disciple. Andrew, I keep thinking that he's an older brother. I have no idea if he is or not. And then you have James and John. John is the youngest of all of them. We don't know exactly how young he is, but some have placed him like 14 to 16 years old. So he's a younger disciple. All right, let's go to chapter 1, verse 21. This is our first miracle of Jesus. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. The people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. Just then a man in their synagogue who was possessed by, well, let's just stop there. So now he's in Capernaum. We're going to track Jesus a little bit in this gospel. So Capernaum is on the north side of the Sea of Galilee. Let's see if I can bring it up here. So the north side of the Sea of Galilee is Bethsaida on the east side and Capernaum on the northwest corner of the Sea of Galilee. So he gets out of the boat, and it looks like it's right on the coast. So he gets out of the boat, and he goes to the synagogue. And there is still a synagogue. Let me pull it up here. This is an ancient synagogue in Chorazin. This is near Capernaum. So this is about, I don't know, a mile north or something like that. But they had synagogues. This may have been to look like what it looks like. A synagogue is not the temple. Typically in the Jewish faith, it was a pretty interesting way that the faith was carried on. The eldest male, or perhaps the eldest males of a family, would go to the synagogue and they would listen to a teaching, or they would be part of a teaching. They would unroll the scroll, and if you had the ability, if you had been taught how to read, then you were able to open up the scroll and you were able to read in the synagogue. Not everybody was able to read. Remember, it was a very, very, very poor community. So some had gone to synagogue school to learn how to read the Torah. And that would be if you were a good Jewish boy, you would have gone to synagogue school if you had the ability. But not everybody had. I mean, it depended upon whether or not your community around you gave you that time to go to synagogue school to learn how to read the Torah. In the Greek world, they worked 7 days a week. So if you wanted to go to synagogue school and learn how to read, and that was the whole purpose of synagogue school. The purpose of synagogue school was to go to synagogue have somebody teach you how to read so that you could read the Torah. And once you were old enough and had the ability to read the Torah or wanted to read the Torah, you would go to synagogue school, or you would go to the synagogue and you were able to open up the scroll. This is like, I've arrived. And you could open up the scroll and you could read it. And you could even reflect upon it if you wanted to. There's in the LDS church, you go to what they call seminary. And at the end of seminary, you become Elder Joe, right? Elder Smith. And they give you a name badge. And now you've arrived, right? You are now a full-blown LDS member because you've gone through seminary and you have your name badge and you can go into the temple and you can do all the different things. And it's kind of similar here in the Old Testament. Once you become a fully educated Jew, you go through your bar mitzvah. I don't know if they had bar mitzvahs back then, but basically you prove to the world that you understand how to read the Torah, what God's laws are. You could be questioned about God's law. Now you're able to teach God's law in the synagogue. And this is on the Sabbath. The Sabbath happens on Friday night to Saturday morning. That's why synagogue school is on Saturday morning, because the Sabbath starts on Friday night. In synagogue school, you go on Sunday morning or Saturday morning, and then Sabbath ends at Saturday night. And the reason why that is because in Genesis 1, it says it was evening and then it was morning the first day or the second day. In the Old Testament, in Hebrew culture, the day starts at sunset. So right now, I am my day that I'm on today, which is Tuesday, started Monday night. So, I wonder if I could say I'm Jewish in the trash day. Hold on, let me think about this. Sorry. I'm just having a little bit of an epiphany here. Oh, my goodness. All right, so, and they were amazed at his teaching because he's taught as one who had authority. Authority is a big concept with Jesus and in the New Testament authors. Jesus says in Matthew 28, all authority on heaven and earth has been given to me. That Greek word is exousia, authority. It means that you have some gravitas to you, that you are able to do what you're doing because somebody has granted to you authority to do that. But this is a different, so the ones who teach the law, the teachers of the law, would give you an authority that you've been bar mitzvahed or something like that. But apparently Jesus almost teaches, not as teachers of the law, but as a different kind of authority. And what would that authority be? And how does he present that? I would have loved to be in the presence of Jesus to find out what it was about him that gave him authority. And I think it would be that there are people in life that you just meet that just seem to have all the answers, that just seem to have an incredible amount of wisdom. There are people that you meet in the preaching world, in the pastoral world. You every once in a while you come across a pastor that has 40 years of experience or something like that, and they've seen it all, and they just seem to have all the answers and all the wisdom and all of that. And that's kind of how I see Jesus, just somebody who has this incredible gravitas, but he's young. he's 30 years old. His public ministry is from 30 to 33, so he just speaks as an elder, like a 90-year-old in a 30-year-old body. And he just seems to effuse, to have all the answers. He can pick up the scroll, he can read the scroll, and he can teach with authority of the scroll. This is what God means here. And that kind of wisdom, where does it come from? Well, that's what Jesus was doing from the time he was born until he was 30 years old. He was gleaning that wisdom. He was going into the synagogue. He was listening to the words that were read. And then he was growing in his maturity and faith. Does Jesus have faith? I think Jesus has faith. He definitely has. He's growing in wisdom for sure, because he has to go from learning the stories to deeply ingesting the stories and understanding the heart of God. Jesus, I imagine that Jesus spent the most of his time reading the Torah and even when he was woodworking, because he was a carpenter's son, he was most likely a woodworker, that he reflected all the time on the things of God to gain this wisdom and gain this authority. But even different from the teachers of the law, he has like a deeper, richer, more fundamental understanding of God. All right, so we'll end it there and maybe go into the healing of the impure spirit. All right, so let's leave it there. That's verse 23. Let's close. Dear God, thank you for this beautiful day, and thank you for your word. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's go over here. Because I believe most people put it out the night before, I'm grateful for not having an HOA. You should be grateful. There's no HOAs in your... Hey, Cindy, you got any houses for sale up in your area? Actually, there's a bunch of houses for sale, that whole Rocking K subdivision, but they're all part of an HOA too. I have a 2, I refinanced. I have a 2 1/4, 2 1/8 on my mortgage. And that's pretty good. And it would be hard for me to sell and try to find a different mortgage. All right. So there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me. All you sinners who take out your trash a day early, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. The HOA should come and flog you for sure, like they're flogging me. All right. Okie dokie. Tomorrow's trash day. I may be late. Sorry, I have to take out my trash before we do the podcast. I love you guys. Take care. All right, bye.